Here are some examples of what happens when you have a grafted rose. So I've got a couple rose bushes here. This one here has tipped over, and this one here has become completely overgrown by the rootstock. So let's have a closer look at these two. All looks like nice growth, but if you go down, you can see that the only part of the plant that I actually have paid for is this part here. It's the only part coming from the bud union, that part there. All the other stems are coming from beneath the bud union, which means this is all rootstock. Now that's easy enough to tell the difference between the two when the bud union is above the ground. But if we go back to this one, you can see what happens when the bud union is above the ground. So all the nice growth is coming from the bud union, which means this is all the plant that I've pretty much bought, which is great. Problem is that it's so top heavy compared to this little stem that's sticking out. The wind has basically made it flip over and pulled some of the roots out from the ground. So that's what's called windrock. Now the way around this would be to bury the bud union, like Paul Zimmerman says. The problem with that is when you bury the bud union, it becomes very hard to see what is rootstock and what is the actual plant that you've bought. So the solution that I've found around this is to have own root roses instead of these grafted roses, which poses the question, why do people have grafted roses if you come into these problems? And that all comes down to business management. So if you have 3 to 4 nodes sticking out for a cutting or any sort of propagation method, then compared to just using one of those nodes on a graft, and let's say it takes 7 seasons to build up the stock of a new variety up to the point where you can sell it at mass production, well, 4 to the power of 7, that gives you a factor of 16,000 difference. And so on a economic stance, it makes a lot more sense to just graft everything onto already rootstock that's been prepared before the flower has been decided of what's the next one to try and propagate to sell. So yeah, so just wrapping up, these are the problems with grafted roses.